I'm your teacher today, and we're going to have a little bit of a news report on the sort of history that we've been doing here at Warriappendi School. Students have been looking at the beginning of the modern age, starting at 1750, and we've been working through up to about the 1920s. In our first report on the French Revolution, we learned that a lot of people really were losing their heads. Now, it's not as bad as it may seem, because after all, it was the beginning of the Declaration of the Rights of Man. That's why we looked at it, because even though it was a long time ago, it actually has a big relevance to today, just as much as Magna Carta. And now for a blast from the past, which was World War I. It really was quite a big bang, and it did get things moving, especially for Aboriginal people, because it was the first time that Aboriginal people were ever paid fairly when they joined the armed forces, and that was the beginning of the Aboriginal rights movement in Australia. For our next report, we had a look at Aboriginal students here at Warriappendi School being fortunate enough to have a look at Black Diggers, the renowned performance that was at a Majesty's Theatre during the Adelaide Festival. Students were totally absorbed by the performance, and it fitted in perfectly with the work they were doing in researching Aboriginal family members that had taken part in World War I using original primary sources. We moved on to the end of the war, and we discovered that our most deadly enemy wasn't the one on the battlefield at all. It wasn't guns and weapons. The most deadly enemy was the flu. The 1918-1919 pandemic, at the end of the war, killed over 50 million people worldwide, far more deadly than the war itself. I hope you've all had your flu shots for the coming year. We all have. What we're looking at all the way along is how quickly the world is starting to change. We've moved from a world that didn't change much at all, particularly Aboriginal Australia and the rest of the world, to a world where lots of things are starting to change. We start with the hugely horrific event of the Titanic in 1912, a huge shock to the world. Modern communications are able to communicate that fairly quickly to people. We looked at Madame Curie's discovery of radium and the difference that made, the telephone, the Edison phonograph, and all of these things, even antibiotics eventually, had a huge impact on modern life. Thank you for having joined us here at the Warriappendi History Channel. I think that's probably about enough for now, but please join us next time. We'll have plenty of exciting things and interesting things to look at on our next session.